Good afternoon, everybody. I am Eric Anderson, president of SEDCOR. I'd like to thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your continued participation with SEDCOR as we've moved these monthly business forums online. We're excited today about offering a really topical presentation on highlighting some good news that's coming out of some really devastating wildfires that we've experienced both as communities in the Santiam Canyon as well as a region and frankly as a state. I think there's a lot of folks that have a lot of emotion invested in recovery efforts, and I think you're all going to hear some great things that are happening as a result of this. We just want to mention we do have a portal, a donation portal on our website. If you would like to help us continue to offer these events, we have been switching to a web-based offering, and we're proud of the programming we've been able to offer, and we're also thankful we've had such great participation. I think one thing we have learned over the last several months is people are really good at pivoting and trying new things and adapting. So we thank you for that. If you would like to support us, there's a pay as you can option on our website, SEDCOR.com, in the donation portal. So thank you for that, and thank you for your support. I'd also like to note that there's a Q&A feature for folks that probably most of us are used to Zoom at this point, but there is a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We will have time to answer questions and at the end of the panel discussion. So please use that feature, and we'll be following that and getting those ready for the end of the presentation. I would like to also thank Rich Duncan Construction. Rich is a longtime supporter of SEDCOR, participant in our SEDCOR Construction Alliance, former chair of our board, and current member of our executive council. So, I've been really pleased to get to know Rich better as I've taken on this role. And one thing I can also say is he is one of the most community-minded business people I've come across. We're really happy to have him both involved with SEDCOR, but more importantly, as a member of the community here. I'd like to introduce Rich to thank him for kind of sponsoring this webinar. He'll just going to say a couple words and then hand this off to Nick Harville to introduce the panelists that we have today. So Rich, I'll start with you. Thank you.
Great, Eric. Hey, thanks a lot. Yeah, Rich Duncan Construction. I mean, thinking back, one of my first decisions in business was to join the chamber and join SEDCOR, and I've participated now since 2001 or 2002, so a long time, and certainly done some fun things. Getting started with the Construction Alliance way back, I think about 2008, when we were working on just some other projects and trying to help construction in industry and people like Carl with Southtown Glass and Rick Day, John Gooley, and certainly Nick helping us get this little association together, and we were really able to do a lot of good things. So pretty exciting. And to look at our company now, I started with a tool belt and a white pickup, and it's just grown from there. Now serving Oregon and Washington in pretty much full capacity construction. We also this last year started doing residential just because people kept calling and asking us to do it. So fairly exciting times for our company. I know COVID and other things seemingly put a challenge in business, but we're adapting every day. And so with that, we certainly appreciate our partnership with SEDCOR and the things that they do and offer and help us grow a great company. So I'm going to pass this on and have Nick bring us up to speed with the things we're working on up in the canyon. Nick, I'm going to let you take it on.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. My job is to introduce the panel. Rich mentioned some of the things we're doing, and currently one of the major projects is trying to help the city of Detroit get a new city hall. And it's a process just like anybody else. The new city hall will be a little bit larger than the old one, and a fire station and a nice community area. Most of what's been done so far has been donated. Rich isn't making any money on this, but has taken this on as a way to give back to the community. Today, our panel will consist of Brian Nichols, who's the head of Marion County Public Works, Dina Ferris from the Wildfire Relief Fund, who we've tried to continuously work with. And finally, Rich will talk about the project in Detroit in greater detail. So Brian, if you'd like to start things off.
All right, thank you, Rich. All right, so this morning I'm going to talk about three things. First, I'm going to give everybody an update on, hey Jenny, I'm not able to start my video. It looks like I'm locked out. So let's see, so I'm going to talk about three things. First one, I'll give everybody just a quick update on the statewide debris cleanup project, that status. And then I'm going to talk about where people can go to find additional information. And finally, we'll wrap up by talking a couple of topics on building permits and reconstruction information, some of what the county has going to assist in the recovery effort. So first, statewide debris cleanup status. The week after the wildfire, all 8 affected counties got together with the state and made a decision. And that decision was that we would all join together in a coordinated statewide effort rather than having every county go on their own. Other states have tackled these wildfire recoveries in different ways. We decided to band together really because of lessons learned in California over the last 4 or 5 years. And so all 8 counties are engaged in that. ODOT really is the lead agency when it comes to contracting for the recovery efforts. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But I'll tell you, so far, there's some successes with that have come from that very initial decision. First of all, we are weeks or literally months ahead of where, say, California and Colorado have been on some of their wildfire recoveries. It feels like it's going slow, but there's a lot that has happened. You know, the state's already put up $50 million in state funding to match FEMA funding on the debris cleanup effort. That includes household hazardous waste and the larger structural debris cleanup that's yet to come. The whole strategy of you know, putting this in the state's hands, but with a lot of detailed coordination with the counties paid off, because really it means the state can just plug in state resources right at the get-go. And that is fundamentally, that's the reason why we are weeks and months ahead where a lot of the other recovery efforts have been you know, this close after a wildfire. All right, just on Monday, ODOT put some information out about phase 2 cleanup. And so this now applies to both phase 1 and phase 2 cleanup. For those who aren't familiar, phase 1 is the household hazardous waste cleanup that EPA is really in the last weeks of wrapping up right now. And then phase 2 is that larger debris cleanup, structural debris and contaminated soil removal, hazard tree removal, that sort of thing. So what the state announced on Monday is that the state has agreed to fund cleanup of all properties in the fire area. So that, you know, earlier we knew that primary residences were included. Now on Monday, we have confirmation that all residences, secondary residences, vacation homes, rental properties, all eligible for the phase 2 cleanup. All commercial properties in the fire boundary are also eligible to be included in that phase 1 cleanup with no out-of-pocket cost to property owners. We'll talk in a moment about what that phrase means. What's not included in the program? Private agricultural and forest lands. There are USDA grant programs designed to help private property owners for ag and forest lands. So USDA has put a lot of information out about that. Folks should go directly to the USDA website to find out more information about that. And the other category that's not included in the statewide cleanup, that is anything that's on federal lands. So for us in Marion County, that really means Brighton Bush. There are a few other properties that are up in the canyon that are on federal lands, BLM or Forest Service under a grandfathered permit, special use permit. Those federal agencies are responsible for cleanup. The last we've had a conversation with the state, it sounded to me like Forest Service was leaning towards asking FEMA to come in and assist with that cleanup as well, since they already have resources on the ground. So we're hoping to see that that's where that goes. In Marion County, phase 1 household hazardous waste cleanup, it's literally about 90% done. 90% of the people, more than 90% of the people that have submitted a right of entry for phase 1 cleanup have had their property addressed. I think as of this morning's count, there were literally 15 properties left to clean up in phase 1. EPA is going to send their crews home for Thanksgiving, give everybody a week off, and then they're going to bring a crew back on the first week of December, or November 30th. And that is probably going to be our final push to get household hazardous cleanup taken care of free of charge for property owners under this program. And the important thing there is that properties have to go through the phase 1 cleanup if they're going to remain eligible to participate in phase 2 cleanup. So we're making one final push to let everybody know, and that's why I made a point of mentioning that second homes, vacation homes, rental properties, commercial properties, until Monday of this week, we didn't have written confirmation from the state that those properties would be included in the program at no cost to the property owner. We now have that confirmation, so we're making a big push to let people know that's what's happening. So if there's anybody that's been sitting on the fence, not submitting a right of entry, we're hoping that will encourage them to do that. Phase 2 status. All right, ODOT is the contracting agency that's going to bring the contractors on to do the actual physical cleanup, but there's a lot of coordination with the counties. They've already hired their oversight consultant to make sure that demo happens exactly like the state is envisioning, or the debris cleanup. They're hiring two groups of contractors. The first one are timber removal contractors. So we have all seen timber removal happening up the canyon. ODOT's hiring another round of timber removal contractors and arborists. This is for removal of hazard trees. So they have included, or they can include, they've included in the contract the removal of trees on county and city roads, in addition to state highway. But it's also to remove any hazard trees that are on private property that pose a hazard to the cleanup effort. That contract is already bid. They're in the contract award process right now. I think we're expecting award of those contracts next week. So literally first week in December, ODOT's in position to mobilize those contractors and start to remove hazard trees. So the next group of contractors, the debris removal contractors, can come in. The goal, I think, on those contracts is to have award complete by December 3rd or so. So with a little mobilization time, they're on the ground, well before Christmas. That's the timeline that ODOT's working on. I want to take a second and talk about some of the hurdles or trade-offs, fears that people might have, why we've had approximately 30% of property owners not submit a right of entry. I think there's some concern or some fear that there ultimately will be some cost to the property owner. And we've gotten that worked out. There really should be no cost to property owners that participate in phase 1 or phase 2. Now, the state does have to make a reasonable effort to recoup funds that are also covered by insurance, but they've worked out the details with FEMA on that. The state is going to wait until property owners are completely done with their rebuild. So if a property has insurance, that insurance does not have a specified coverage for wildfire debris removal, then they're going to let property owners complete their construction, use up their insurance funds before the state even asks them, hey, are there any excess funds available to recoup for FEMA. If anybody has ever rebuilt a fire damaged home, you know you're never left with excess funds at the end. It always costs a little bit more than insurance covers. So there really should be no risk to property owners to participate in the program. I think the other thing that is keeping people on the sidelines, that 30% of property owners from submitting the rights of entry, and that is ODOT has advertised this timeline. They've said it's going to take somewhere between 6 months to 18 months to complete cleanup statewide. What we're seeing here, we're working with ODOT and really encouraging them to get schedules laid out with their contractors as soon as those contracts are executed, so we can accurately communicate to people what that timeline looks like. What we've done to encourage people to get into the program and not lose the ability to be a part of the program, we've created an opt-out program. So you can submit a right of entry for phase 2, take a look at the timeline that ODOT ultimately establishes with their contractors, and opt out if you don't want to be a part of that program, if it doesn't fit your timeline for rebuilding your property. So there's still time to submit rights of entry for phase 1 cleanup as well as phase 2. Properties have to be a part of phase 1 to be included in phase 2. But time is running short. I'd say property owners have maybe another week or so to make up their mind whether they want to participate in phase 1, maintain their eligibility for phase 2. Like I said, they can opt out of phase 2 later if they decide that they don't want to be a part of it. All right, so that is where that's the status on statewide cleanup efforts. And I am going to show folks where you can get some of this information. So that's item 2 on my agenda. So you should be looking at the Marion County webpage, and we've been mentioning this in public meetings every time we are in front of the public. There's this button right at the top of the page, and this is on every Marion County webpage, wildfire recovery button. You click on that, it'll take you to a page that has a lot of information resources. We are trying to keep this as up to date as we can with reference information. When you click on it, the very first thing you come to is the right of entry form. So you can submit your information online. The state has a consultant that if there's any questions, they'll give you a call, they'll help through the process. And we also have some phone numbers here that you can call if you need help either from us or ODOT or EPA. On this page, you will find everything from where to go to in the community to find resources, including FEMA's outreach center, the disaster resource centers that the SIT team has been operating, even where to sign up to help with volunteer opportunities in the canyon, information about how to, what to be cautious of or aware of as you come back to your property and start thinking about cleanup, including a lot of information here that's very useful to a homeowner to decide, hey, do I want to take on cleaning up my own property on my own? What are the ins and outs? What do I need to know about hiring a contractor? All of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of really useful information on this page, including links to other agencies and other resources. So I want to point that out because at this point, the majority of the phone calls and questions that we're getting on the county helpline really have to do with some fairly basic questions, all of which the answers are right here. And most of it has to do with just understanding what it is overall that's going on. And you can see, you can get that information here from this website. All right, third item I'm going to hit on is building permits and reconstruction information. So in Marion County, the building permits division is part of Public Works. So if you're trying to reach out to them, you're calling my department. And it's a challenge to give blanket guidance on building permits and reconstruction guidance, just because anybody that's worked in state building code knows the details matter when you're trying to figure out which answer applies to a specific question. So I'm going to give you some big picture information, and then ultimately I'm going to recommend folks call our building inspection division to get specific answers or specific questions answered. First thing is the Board of Commissioners have waived structural permits and the first septic permit for wildfire reconstruction of primary homes. So that applies to primary homes only. We are recommending people hire a licensed contractor to perform their cleanup. Now, a lot of cleanup has already happened. People have taken it on and they have the right to do that. We are recommending that people hire a qualified contractor. At the very least, hire a DEQ certified testing firm to test your debris and make sure you really understand what's in there, so you know what the risk of exposure to you and anybody that you might hire to perform that work. If you hire a contractor that is not a DEQ certified abatement contractor, then we're recommending that people ask their general contractor to hire a DEQ certified abatement contractor to perform the cleanup on anything that their certified testing firm might identify as containing asbestos or lead or other heavy metals that are above certain thresholds. Those consultants know all the rules, so they can help lead you through that process. All of our local waste haulers, abatement contractors, they're working directly with Coffin Butte Landfill on Coffin Butte's disposal requirements. Coffin Butte is only going to take waste, wildfire debris that has been tested and manifested correctly. So if you take this on yourself, you need to know, be forewarned that yes, there is some work you need some qualified people to help you with if you're going to get this this material disposed of. Can you clean up your own property? Absolutely. We're recommending that people go to the county website, take a look at some of the information that's available here. Some of it is DEQ guidance. Others, we have specific information from Coffin Butte that everybody should know that's planning to deposit waste there. A lot of good information that's there. I would say about 80% of the questions we're getting all have to do with septic systems. So what we're telling people is there is too much septic damage out there for our septic staff to be able to get out and inspect and certify. So we really are working with certified installation firms to get that frontline inspection done. If your system requires a state mandated annual inspection and fee, the county can't waive those because they're mandated by the state. However, if you have a damaged septic system and it's out of use right now, the county's not going to pursue any kind of enforcement action on property owners. We're going to let people get back to get their reconstruction done, get their septic recertified, and then we'll be looking to continue that program. Septic systems do need to be installed and repaired and recertified before you put them back into service. So work with your septic installers to get that work done. They know exactly what they're doing. Big question is, can I roll an RV back onto my property and occupy it temporarily while I'm doing my rebuild? And yes, the county rules do allow that. You can even connect your RV to your septic system, but you need to make sure that it's operational, get it certified, and get it functioning correctly so that you won't have issues down the road. So those are kind of the ironclad responses and guidance we're providing to people. Once you get into detailed questions, you really need to call our building division. The whole staff here, we've been dealing with questions we hadn't dealt with before. We've got the answer to the majority of those. So when you call the crew, they're really interested in making sure that people have good, reliable information they can use as they move ahead. All right, I know that was a little more than 10 minutes, but that's it for my information.
Okay, next on our panel is Deanna Ferris from the Wildfire Relief Fund. They have been doing some incredibly wonderful work up the canyon, helping people out. And I don't think there's an end in sight. So Deanna, if you want to tell us a little bit about what you guys have been doing in the future.
Sure, thanks, Nick. Really appreciate the opportunity to share with everyone the good work that's been happening. And that was a great introduction. I'm going to lean heavily on a PowerPoint presentation to keep everything I have to say within a 10-minute time frame. So bear with me as I bring that up and share my screen. Okay. Sorry, that always takes longer when you're live than when you're practicing. So I'm going to bring up our mission statement to start with. And in summary, the Santiam Canyon Wildfire Relief Fund was established to raise funds to provide relief, support the recovery, and assist in the rebuild of the Santiam Canyon as a result of the wildfires of September 2020. The fund was started on Friday, September 11th, so days just after the wildfire. And since then, in about 9.5 weeks, we've raised $2,284,549 of our $5 million goal. And as you can imagine, with a lofty sum such as that, we are often fielding the question of how does the relief fund distribute the monies that have been donated. So we operate as an advisory board under the Santiam Hospital Board of Directors, and we operate under their 501c3 designation. We have a group of 12 advisors who approve or deny funding requests. Now, most of these advisors were already participating members of the Santiam Service Integration Team, which I'll explain more about that in a minute. And really all that means is this group of people were already on the ground in the community prior to the wildfires, either as service providers through nonprofit work or pastors, business owners, and residents. So I think that's really important to the success of the model thus far. We're really proud of that we're actually on the ground performing the work in the community by the community. So early on, we had to get organized, and we identified 3 phases of support to fund. And it kind of lines up with what Brian was just saying with the county. We knew phase 1 would be focused on relief efforts. So those immediate needs like shelter, assistance with medical supplies, documentation replacement, and a way to connect residents to other available resources. And the way that funds are distributed to support relief efforts is through the SIT, or the Service Integration Team model. And again, I'll touch on that in a couple of slides. The next phase of funding that we would support would be recovery related. So expenses related to all those things that Brian also was just talking about: cleanup, debris removal, septic issues, and pretty much whatever is needed to make a property inhabitable again. And the way that we're hoping to distribute those funds is through a grant application process. So very much like a foundation would operate. So individuals who are in need of support would submit an application to the advisory fund to either approve or deny. Phase 3 is obviously rebuild. It's all the exciting things that I think many of you in the room are wanting to participate in. The funding request also for that phase would be through the application process. Now, one of the reasons we're being really particular is, as Brian just described, the amount of support available through different agencies has kind of been evolving as we are actually in the midst of things. So it's been hard to restrain ourselves not to knee-jerk say yes to everything that's been coming our way, but we really want to make sure that we're leveraging the donated dollars against the available funding sources that maybe government is providing. And so we're trying really hard to stay informed of that changing landscape, if you will. So we're really excited about the work that the service integration team has done thus far as the relief efforts are concerned. And those are all the things that really tugged at everyone's, or continue to tug at everyone's heartstrings. So the service integration team was established formally at Santiam Hospital back in 2017, but it actually existed for about 5 years prior to that as the Canyon Collaborative. And really all that was a group of volunteers from nonprofits, from the local schools, from government agencies such as DHS, our faith-based community, business owners, even the police, local police agencies were sitting around a table really regularly on their own accord, and they would just discuss and identify the unmet needs in the community. So the idea was, because of the connection, that spiderweb network of connection that group of people represented, they were able to identify the unmet needs and then determine who at the table was best suited to meet them. And in doing that, they're able to not only meet the needs appropriately and let the organizations and service providers who specialize in certain areas do what they do best. I think the most interesting thing about this model is it pretty much guarantees no duplication of services, which is always a concern when we're addressing unmet needs in a community. So this was already in operation prior to the wildfire. So you can see where that made a lot of sense for us as the fund initiators to say this was the group we needed to help us decide how to distribute the funds. So we expanded on the existing Santiam service integration team, went from essentially one FTE, and then lots of different agencies have loaned, for lack of a better word, their specialists. So we have, at the peak, we had almost 8 or 9 intake specialists. I think we're averaging about 6 right now. And those are the folks that are taking the calls and answering all the emails. And in doing so, in this short amount of time, they've connected and provided services with to over 911 unduplicated households in this short amount of time. We expect that number to continue to rise as the needs evolve in the recovery and cleanup efforts. So the Wildfire Relief Fund and coordination with United Way and all the donation efforts that were happening around the county has set up 4 resource centers. And the major one is in Sublimity, and that's where the SIT team is housed, or officed, I should say. And that resource center kind of feeds all the ones farther up the canyon. And it's really just a fantastic example of small supply chain management. And we've coordinated in the last few weeks with the state warehouses. And of course, we're with Rhonda Wolf from United Way actually being an existing member of the service integration team. And now she's on our advisory board. We've been able to work directly with United Way to get the items that people are looking for. I can't talk about folks without you laying eyes on them. This is one of the core, I guess really the core group of the service integration team. You'll see that they're all decked out in their Santiam Hospital garb. And I bring that up to share with you that all of this is happening at the sheer generosity and, if you, for lack of better words, the pleasure of Santiam Hospital. So all of this fund administration and oversight is happening at no cost to the fund. So the hospital is absorbing all the administration pieces of that. And also you think about the IT support to have a mobile office offsite. And I just really want to applaud Santiam Hospital's partnership in this and making this happen. These are the folks that have really met with and know, probably by name at this point, thousands of individuals who are in need of support. So I'm going to show you, excuse me, I went back one. I lost track of my thing there. This is the service integration team model. leverage.
You froze up.
And I see.
You froze up, Dina.
I think maybe we allow Dina to try to get back on, and in the meantime, maybe we can switch to Rich.
Can you hear me now?
We're all good at pivoting these days, so we should be walking our talk here in real time in little ways.
Oh, for sure. There she is.
Oh, she's back. Maybe we can.
Wow. Welcome to home internet. I'd like to engage an IT specialist to support my home office, but
Yeah, that's a skill set we all need, I think, these days.
yeah, it just went down. Sorry about that, guys. Do you want me to pick back up or just kind of abbreviate from here?
Yeah, if you're back on, we'll continue.
I know.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for your grace on that, everybody. Okay, so back to, am I still screen sharing or no?
At this point, no.
Okay, let's
We
get
know it takes a
you
while.
back up.
So,
And how about now?
yep.
There you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks everybody. Let's see. Oh, for crying out loud. Okay. We'll get there. So as I'm hopping through, I really want to talk about the santiamrecovery.org. I know that Santiam Rebuild Coalition is working on a website, and Brian has shared the county's extensive work on their website with all the information. But one of the things that we realize is, as we are trying to organize a very cohesive long-term recovery group, which is a big item of discussion brought to us from our friends at FEMA as how we need to organize for the long term, is we really want to create a space to translate all of this information, because the canyon is cross-jurisdictional with the river dividing two counties. We've got multiple municipalities. You know, there's lots of different resources for information, and we want to provide a spot for what I'm kind of calling is the like the community watering hole, where everybody's coming right to the well to get the information that they need, or maybe they're providing and supporting information to share with the community. So it's a little more than an aggregate, just pointing people to different websites, but it's also a way to help someone who is just really overwhelmed with all the information out there. And so what sort of the one-stop shop. Right now, the website is live, but it is under construction still. So far, it's been funded by the Santiam Hospital and United Way, and we also have a really large funder at the table who's excited about helping us fund this for the long term, for like the 3 to 6 year term, for maintenance and hosting and what am I trying to say? Gathering and compiling all the information that will be necessary. And then obviously keeping it up to date is more than a full-time job. I see a huge role for the Santiam Rebuild Coalition on this site. I don't think this truncates or supersedes any efforts that you're doing to organize your effort. But as you can imagine, you would be an immense resource for us to provide information, and then also, you know, all the vetting of contractors and all of that information. It would be great to, as you see that rebuilding tile that's there, this is a screenshot of the webpage, like all the information behind that rebuilding tile would be heavily supported by your efforts, and certainly this group here. A really robust example what we're aiming for here is makeitparadise.org. So we're not really reinventing the wheel here, or that we haven't just dreamt this up as something that we think would be a great idea. We've seen it. Malibu has a similar site where it's bringing all the economic development pieces together, the government pieces together, the volunteer efforts, the nonprofit efforts. It's all one spot. It's a lofty goal, but we'll be looking forward to partnering with you guys on how to move that forward. I'll let you think about this. There's many different ways to help our relief fund efforts. I'd ask that you help share information. You guys are prone to do that anyway, just the nature of who SEDCOR and everyone at the table is. We're looking for ways to build capacity for the fund. And so rather than asking donors straight for funding dollars to help relief, recovery, and rebuild, we now, under the hospital, are able to ask some of the larger foundations to help with those administrative costs. So we're still very committed to every dollar into the relief fund. It's going to be, until fund depletion, is going to be paid out into the hands of people affected and impacted by the wildfire. None of that's going to be used for hosting fundraising events or administrative dollars to administer the fund. But able to do that, we're going to be stepping out and asking for some support for that capacity building. Obviously, donate items and commit volunteers. I don't think that's anything new to anyone here today. We do have, and in fact, I think the county website actually links up to a live Sign Up Genius has been working beautifully these many weeks for the items that are needed. It's a live list, and volunteer opportunities as well. I brought this up because so many business owners are really the backbone. The small businesses have been the backbone to our fundraising effort, and we just can't thank you enough. It's never lost on me personally or our group on the importance of those who live, work, and play in our area, and dig deep to give in a year that's been really hard already. So we just thank everyone who's given time, effort, energy, support. Obviously, money is our greatest ask, and just want to probably close with that. And lastly, say that whenever you find yourself at a table working on ways to help the canyon, I know many of you are from the greater Salem area. I challenge you to look around your assembled team and just make sure that you have team members who actually live or work in the canyon. So as the recovery and relief efforts go on, we really want to make sure that we're providing opportunity for our community to have a voice in the solutions that others are coming up with to help them. And with that, I think I made it under the 10-minute mark, but I have no idea. I'm going to stop sharing and come back. So I think I'm supposed to point any questions into the Q&A box, and I'll look forward to answering those, or any emails or phone calls after the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. That's great information, and you guys have done some incredible work. On September 25th, we had a meeting in Staten, and there were 12 companies present. As of today, the Santiam Rebuild Coalition has 135 companies represented in it. We asked companies about helping to rebuild the City Hall in Detroit at another meeting in Staten, which you can see in the picture. And 63 or 64 companies that day stood up and signed their name on some 4x8 sheets of plywood. But for all the details on the project, I mean, the coalition has helped do everything from soil erosion, stuff for soil erosion, grass, to finding generators, insulation for the camp up there that converted their cabins into places for residents to live in. There's a whole list of things that we've tried to help out with. But the center of it is the project for Detroit. And to tell everybody more about that project is Mr. Rich Duncan from Rich Duncan Construction. So why don't you tell them about the project, Rich?
Certainly, Nick. Thanks a lot. You know, over the years, the Construction Alliance has done quite a few great things, and certainly with this, the idea of the economic development for the Santiam Canyon, looking at, you know, what could we do for to really make a difference. We identified, you know, let's build a new community center and city hall for Detroit, feeling that all of the Canyon residents, you know, really need Detroit to get put back on the map as an economic driver for all of the Canyon. And you know, it's been, again, overwhelmingly, surprisingly, how everybody has leaned in on the project. You know, I made a few early calls to some of my team members back when we did the Extreme project. I called Mary Benetta and said, hey, I'm going to need some PR and I'm going to need some help with some stuff that, you know, a contractor just doesn't know how to do. And she said, oh boy, I'm all for it. So we then, you know, kind of leaned out to a few other people, and it's kind of been first come, first serve on the list. Richard Rothweiler with AC and Company stepped up to be the architect, and Doug Meltzer with MSC Engineering came up with the structural. AKS's Michael Passant is working on the survey, and we just leaned in and see everybody working on the project. We got the plans. Maybe back up too. So I don't own any property up at Detroit. I was up, I have a trailer that I put up there seasonally on a rented space. And when we were up pulling the trailer out of the aftermath, I was in the street with a bunch of people waiting for the convoy to go back to Salem. And they talked about, you know, 10 or plus years ago, they talked about doing a new city hall and a property owner that was willing to donate some property. And, you know, my ears perked up and we just started talking, and that's kind of where this idea originated, was sitting up there, you know, in the mess of everything. And there's a picture here, what we've come up with. But if you look at the larger structure in the center, that's the old Detroit High School gym, and it still stands. And it's kind of the focal point. There was no fire damage on the property, so it's clean. We don't have to worry about any EPA or DEQ stuff. And so we're just kind of rallying around the old city high school gym, and it's adjacent to their city park. So it just works out like just a great plan. And I've just been excited, especially with some of the resources, the people that actually have homes that up in Detroit that have businesses. I've jumped in, and so we are about, I would say, about 75 to 80% completely donated with our materials and supplies. And so we're really ready to go and pull the trigger. We're hoping, again, to expedite things. I know when we did the Extreme Makeover project, you know, we had to ask people to donate for an unknown project. And we had, I believe on that one, we did 42 days of planning, and then we built the building and renovated the haunted house in 141 hours. We were going to slow down on this one and take a little more time, obviously trying to build through the winter. But our goal, if things work out right, is to, you know, next couple months is to get our plans and permits in order and get the property owner property donated. We do have a website, a really functional website, certainly not to challenge any other website out there where the website would be focused mainly for recognizing all of the companies that are donating to this project and coordinating that. And that one's the Santiam Rebuild Coalition.org. And then we're working in partnership with the Detroit Lake Foundation. And so the foundation will be kind of our arm to help us coordinate and make sure that we're building something that the city's going to want to receive. But again, overwhelmingly, everybody right now and seemingly across the board just wants to be part of something fun and something good. And you know, in all these troubling times, it doesn't take much for me right now to just feel humbled and gracious and see what people want to lean in and do. So that's kind of my spiel. And you know, again, if you get a call from me, I'm usually needing a piece or a part to this, but it won't be a lot, because if we all put in a little bit, we can do something really extraordinary. So there's my pitch, Nick. I didn't have a timer or anything, so.
Okay, thanks, Rich. It is pretty humbling to see how all these guys are all coming together to do this project. With that, I guess I'll turn it over to Eric.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Thanks to all the panelists too. We did have a question come up from Selma Pierce, long supporter of SEDCOR as well, asked a question to Dina. The United Way Wildfire Fund, is that, or how is that connected to the Santiam Canyon Relief Fund?
That's a great question, and the short answer is yes. So part of our advisory council is a member is Rhonda Wolf, who's actually CEO of United Way. So they're very plugged into our efforts. They have supported financially some specific asks that we've had for the resource centers and different items that were in high demand. They've also supplied donated items, gifts in kind that they were receiving at in the Salem area at their donation center. And as I said, they are helping fund some of the infrastructure for the long-term recovery group website. So I can't speak to all of their funds, how they're using them, but we certainly are coordinating with them and have had a lot of support and are trying to work in tandem with their efforts as well.
Great, thank you. I can also attest to the fact that it's very easy and painless to donate to the Santiam Canyon Relief Fund, because I just did it during your presentation. So you sold me. Not that you had to, but you sold me. You're doing great work there. It's very impressive too, what you've been able to build so far. We have Council President from Detroit, Shelley Engel, had asked, when can they officially announce that this project is happening? I think this is probably directed toward Rich. I guess the folks in Detroit have been relatively quiet about it, and they're getting anxious because it's such a great project.
Yeah, you know, again, it all kind of started again in the street. So putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, I haven't seen anything that would lead me to believe that this isn't happening. But our kind of our key milestone will be that transfer of donation of the property and how that all works out for the property owner. We're right now in appraisals and some of the stuff. Even, you know, we had Southwood Griggs stepped up to do some free legal work for us. So, you know, we have things in the works. I would say the day that we have that property transferred would be the day that we could really announce. We're not stopping. We're getting our permits. We're seeking our donations. We're putting the project together with that intent. So if the rumor continues, I don't think that's a bad thing. So we're going to do something there.
Thanks, Rich. I'm glad you mentioned Southwood Griggs too, because that's a good example there. You know, SEDCOR member, and they emailed me, you know, a few weeks back and just said, "Hey, we want to help. How do we help?" I think we were able to find them a couple different ways to engage, but it just shows you attorneys, you know, it's not just construction companies, it's everybody that's been bringing things to the table. It's been really humbling to see that kind of reaction. We have a question that I think is probably is directed to the panel, but it may be in Brian's wheelhouse more. Does anyone have an update on the status of the 1-year requirement for rebuilding? This person has an insurance policy that allows up to 1 year to rebuild and close out the claim, or they lose the money. And they understand from the insurance company that a waiver would need to come from the state insurance oversight board, and that, to their knowledge, it hasn't happened yet. So trying to get some information on that.
Well, when it comes to, this is the first I've heard of this provision being in an actual insurance policy. So, you know, this person is commenting anonymously. If they wouldn't mind getting a hold of, get a hold of me at Public Works, we do have a line of communication with the state insurance board. We want to make sure that that person gets the help that they need. In general, there are a lot of provisions in building code that are grandfathered if you reconstruct fire damage within a year. And you have to initiate construction within the year, not complete construction. This is the first time I've seen somebody with a kind of a third-party mandate they have to complete construction. So yeah, get a hold of us. We'll make sure that they get in contact with the right person at the insurance board that can help them.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Michael Mortar from DC Department of Consumer Business Services, I know has been helping us with some of the insurance questions as well.
That's exactly who I was going to go to.
Yeah, Michael's been great. He's another one of the folks that just, you know, quickly called us up and said, how do I engage? How do I get in? How do I meet these folks directly? You know, it's been really helpful.
Yeah. Fortunately for us, initiating construction can be just as easy as submitting your septic inspection and certification, or, you know, signing a construction contract with a builder. You know, that's initiating construction. So it gives you quite a long time in the overall time frame to meet those grandfathered you know, allowances.
So we encourage the person that asked that question either contact Brian or go through SEDCOR. We'll be sure it gets to Brian with an answer for you. Looks like we've managed to tackle the questions. I do want to thank Dina, Brian, and Rich for joining us today, and especially thank you not just for being part of the panel, but for doing what you're doing. It's really really inspirational to see how the communities are coming together and how the business community is coming together. I would also be remiss if I, just as SEDCOR, didn't thank Nick Harville. He's our man in Marion County, but I think I can use the term Rolodex with him since we're kind of the same age group here. But his Rolodex or phone book for younger folks is really impressive. And you know, when we have to get out and connect with the community or businesses, particularly as it related to the recovery efforts and his role in staffing and building the Santiam Rebuild Coalition, it's been really great to have Nick kind of as our glue holding that together. So I want to give a special thanks to Nick. Once again, thank you for attending today. If you know, we do have a donate spot on our website at SEDCOR if you're interested in trying to help us out and to continue these types of events. And I certainly would also point you in the direction of the Santiam Relief Fund website also, if that's another great place to put a little extra money if you've got it this time of year particularly. With that, I will thank you all. We'll be taking a little bit of a break from our normal forums next month and having our annual meeting and awards presentations, and please stay tuned for that. Will be more information forthcoming on that. In the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and able to enjoy, oh, thank you, Jenny. December 18th, I should have known that, is our annual meeting and awards ceremony. And of course, we're doing that online, so it's a little bit different than usual, but we did have the benefit of reading through many nominations that once again definitely puts us in a good mood to see what kind of great things are happening around the region over the past year. So with that, I thank you all for your participation today, and look forward to seeing you all very soon, and have a happy Thanksgiving next week too. Take care.